It's 12 o'clock.
Alright, stand by. Just updating all the things. That signal, where are you? Almost there, stand by. Everybody, Matt, Todd, Jason, Julie, Thomas, another Matt. Okay, I think we're good.
Good presage.
Go into our lovely faces here. Hello. What's up, everybody? How's it going? Chilling on the live stream here. Thanks for joining us for this. We're letting people file in here for a second while we get situated. How's everybody doing? You excited? You excited?
Good.
All right.
Hype.
All right. If everybody's comfortable, I think we're going to get started. I got my drink.
Do it.
Dr. Pepper.
I do too.
All right. Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Mograph special. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt, and joining us today is the teams from Sarofsky, Erin Sarofsky, Duarte Elvas, and Jake Allen.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi there.
Hey, guys.
We are super excited.
Dude,
We are super excited.
y'all are in for a treat.
Yes.
Y'all are in for a treat.
It is the premiere of the FITC titles. We are super pumped and we're super excited and honored that you asked us about this. We're really excited. So we're gonna go through. We're gonna watch. Gonna have a breakdown. It's gonna be a fun time. So let's start a little bit, I guess, with an introduction on this video and how it all happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's to start all the way at the beginning, like probably last summer, a long time, like almost a year ago, Sean reached out and asked if we'd be interested in doing the titles for FITC 2020 Toronto. And the studio had just started talking about, we started just floating the idea of maybe doing another one. It had been a while since we had done one, and we were itching for kind of a personal project, but we like when we do a personal project for it to be something for something, even still, so that there's a deadline and all of the things. And when he came to us with this, it was, we jumped at it. It was, Toronto, which I believe is their flagship event, and 2020 had very special significance to Sean, just being a future technology design innovation conference, all the letters of FITC. And so he really wanted something extraordinary for this year's Open. And I don't know if you realize it, but they wrapped the whole theme around the theme of the titles. And then all of the art and everything for it kind of falls out of it. So what we actually appreciated about the process, which he, of course, explained when he offered this up, is that, there are milestones. It's not just with some of the other titles we've done for events, it's like you show up on the day and you air it, and that might be the first time they see it as well. But here there's like lots of check-ins. It runs like more of a job. So even though we're definitely creatively in the driver's seat, they need things at specific times, so it makes it much more of a real project in a way. So
that's awesome.
by the time fall came around, we knew what we were doing, and everybody was like in alignment on the concept and the approach. And so we've been working on this for quite some time.
Was the concept all y'all's idea, or did they have some say where they're like, we were thinking this, can you run with that? Or did you come up with the concept 100%?
So Sean said wanted it to be very much about the future, when we started brainstorming around that, we started working around the idea of like, when we were kids, what did we think the future would look like? So It started out like really quite charming, which is like a very stark contrast from what you're going to see. But we started talking about like jetpacks. I was very like Jetsons world, severe hair and robot housewives, things like that. Housemaids, not wives. Sorry, everybody.
You do you.
I mean, it's whatever,
I mean, it's a concept. I could use one. So, but we actually started talking about Back to the Future, because you could imagine hoverboards and all that stuff. And then we started, really thinking about how, the Back to the Future 2, Back to the Future, back again. They went to like the alternate future, which like, Trump and all of that. So we started really thinking about it a little bit more darkly. And so we started thinking about like, our idea of what it would have been versus what it is, and what it could potentially be if we're not thoughtful and careful and make space for individuality. So we started working around that as a theme, and one of our producers was like, hey, have you guys ever heard this song? It's called In the Year 2525.
Such a good song.
And so we listened to it. It's a legit one-hit wonder. It was done in 1969 by, what was it, Zinger
and Evans.
Yeah. And I believe they had one song to hit the top 100, and this was it. And I believe it made it to 100. So it wasn't like, I believe it like just made it in. So we ran this concept by Sean, and he really liked it. So essentially bringing this song to life, almost music video, because I really kind of started hitting themes that we were feeling and talking about. And so then we went down the whole path of like, how do you license this song? And our friends at Group Al kind of helped us through that process. And that took quite a bit of time. But while we were doing that, we were kind of sketching and brainstorming and figuring out what the story would be and what the style would be. So then it's, after we officially got the rights for it, we, started making stuff like for real. Yeah, so that's
it's the greatest music video for a one-hit wonder ever.
Right.
69. So how many years is that? It's like a lot of years later.
Finally honored it.
Took a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the artist who performs the song, Gene, is fantastic. We'll give do all of the Instagram so everybody can find all the artists and everything like that. But yeah, it was an awesome, amazing kind of process. So, and truly from beginning to end, concept to creation, it was pushing ourselves at every kind of point. So we probably look very tired. Yeah. So yeah, that's the backstory for it. Yeah, we finished it yesterday for sure. So
awesome.
Nothing like a deadline to make something done.
Right.
So.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing improves performance like the last second is what my old boss used to say. I love that line. So
truly the last second. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna show it off.
Yeah.
Show it off?
You ready?
You
ready?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I'm gonna bring this up. Just make sure to self-mute yourself during this. I know there's gonna be some oohs and ahs and things like that, probably for me. So I'll just have to keep my mouth shut. All right. Without further ado, here is the premiere. Here we go.
In the year 2525, if man is still alive, if woman can survive, they may find. In the year 3535, ain't gonna need to tell the truth, tell no lies. Everything you think, do, and say is in the pill you took today. In the year 4545, ain't gonna need your teeth, you won't need your eyes. You won't find a thing to chew. Nobody's gonna look at you. In the year 5555, your arms hanging limp at your sides. Your legs got nothing to do, and some machine is doing that for you. In the year 6565, ain't gonna need no husband, won't need no wife. Pick your son, pick your daughter too, from the bottom of a long glass tube. In the year 7510, if God's a coming, he ought to make it by then. Maybe he'll look around himself and say, guess it's time for the judgment day. Whoa. Now it's been 10,000 years, man has cried a billion tears for what he never knew. Now man's reign is through, but through eternal night, the twinkling of starlight, so very far away, maybe it's only yesterday.
So good. So good. So good.
Awesome. Oh my God.
These
Yes,
credits
thank you,
over
everybody.
here.
Yeah. Props to everyone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Song's gonna be in my head all day.
Right.
It's so good.
In the year. I know, I've been doing that for weeks.
That was amazing, y'all. That was amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
So
Feels
good.
good.
Thank you so much.
I have so
very
many questions.
impressive. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I'm sure that the viewers do too.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and we'll try and address them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The flower unfurl. So good.
Oh, I know. I know.
So good.
That has been months of Jake's life.
Oh
So,
my God. Yes.
like you should
So
take a
much
bow for that.
R&D.
Literally.
So much R&D.
So worth it. So worth it.
Yeah.
So first question that I have, because immediately watching it, you notice the characters, and you kind of see the characters, like the humanoid robots, like evolve kind of throughout the years and stuff like that. And initially you get this kind of Metropolis-esque feeling, or even Cybermen from Doctor Who and stuff. Did you guys pull any inspiration from those at all?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Metropolis was
definitely.
like a huge one for us. Citizen Kane.
Yes. Okay.
You,
Yeah.
the style is an interesting thing because in the beginning there was just a lot of, I would say, confusion on our side about exactly what the look was, because I kept calling it photoreal, but then I was still calling it illustrated, and I wanted absolutely a photorealistic look, but I wanted everything to be so beautiful that it looked like it could be illustrated, like it could be an illustration. And so kind of compositionally, we're definitely referencing those things. And obviously the tone of the palette being so stark. But it's got this very interesting look. I think a lot of different kinds of people are going to be interested in it from a technical standpoint as to how the look was actually achieved. So that's kind of cool. But yes, like those movies for sure were referenced. We referenced a lot of Art Deco, actually, because we wanted it to be retro futuristic. Again, like going back to that initial idea of how we thought the future was going to be, was like a lot of those futuristic things look like Art Deco. And so we really wanted to infuse that in, and we kind of are speaking to, like, the main concept is just like this world organization dictatorship, totalitarian regime kind of takes over and like homogenizes the world. And we just kind of become slaves to whatever they're feeding us. And even like religion becomes a part of the greater thinking. It's like all aspects of individuality is stripped away. So that had to be represented in but both a beautiful and dark kind of way,
Yeah. Y'all pulled it off.
Yeah.
Beautifully.
Thank you.
Beautifully.
Thank you.
That is such a great mix. It's that half photorealistic, half something. I don't even know how you describe what the look is,
Yeah. I think when we started like really loving it was when it looked photoreal and everything kind of was lit by a source, but then we started introducing stylized bands of light, and then kind of being very selective about what the objects responded to from a lighting perspective. And it was those purposeful decisions that started to make it look illustrated instead of photoreal, even though it was all photoreal. Ultimately.
And I think the noisy, grainy textures took it to a more illustrative kind of quality.
Yeah, because we had a lot of lights and things like that in our like original test shots that looked really cool, but they looked very 3D, and light was bouncing everywhere and things like that. But the inspiration we were looking at was like not necessarily flat, but had kind of like a lithograph sort of poster look, like it was printed. And so we did a lot of like very purposeful light placement and things like that to, like what Erin said, add streaks of light or add volumetrics in ways that like just setting up a nice lighting rig and letting the renderer figure it out wasn't giving us. And so it was really interesting because it was a challenge, because normally when you're working in 3D, you want it to look real and you want to take advantage of what the renderer is giving you. But this time we were kind of working against it a little bit to like peel it back and make it not look so 3D, like kind of illustrated. Yeah, that was the challenge, I think, the biggest challenge over the project.
Yeah, super props to Josh on that, on our team. He really, there was like a moment that he had that like kind of dining room scene set up, and he started being very dramatic with all the way the lights were working. And I was like, yes, that is.
That was like the determining shot where we were like, let's spread this outward to every other shot.
More of that. Yeah, we definitely had the direction of like the sort of spotlight look and just letting things fall to darkness and keeping it very dramatic, very film noirish. But yeah, and Josh like really took that and ran with it. So
Josh Smirka, shout out.
One of the questions, just to kind of paraphrase in the chat from Mark, did this come out of 3D? looking like that? Was there a lot of posts that you had to do to make that look, passes, or how were you going about doing that?
I would say there was quite a bit of posts, because we got like the grainy look, and we got the light streaks and the volumetrics like in the render, but a lot of it also just for time, and for ease of changes, a lot of it we tried to do as much in comp as possible just to keep it flexible. So it actually, I would say a lot of the shots came out of 3D, definitely not looking like the final shot, and they were sweetened like super duper heavily in After Effects with like, glows and like all the post effects that you see on a render that you're like, oh, that's really sweet. Like any chromatic aberration or glows or any sort of volumetrics, like coming out of render, we were like, okay, this is cool, but then after we ran it through our process, we were like, oh, So like, this was definitely one of those projects where I think like comp was featured very heavily, and like a lot of our final images weren't coming out directly from the renderer. So, and it was, it was cool,
And of course, everybody's going to ask this, what engine?
Arnold.
We did this in Arnold. Yeah.
Okay.
Sarofsky's a big C4D Arnold place. We have a CPU farm, so it works really nicely with that. Nice. It's been really reliable for us. So, and we like it because we can import things like particles and smoke and things like that in Arnold, sort of around Cinema 4D's like system. It has like procedurals and things like that you can do, or like VDB loaders, and stuff like that. So we've had quite a good run with Arnold, and so but this was, once again, it was really different because like for some of these shots we had to like turn down diffuse light bounces because we like didn't want it to look so global illumination-y, things like that, and I was like, oh man, because I'm used to cranking that up, like I want it to look really real. So that was definitely an interesting part of the process.
See, I don't think everyone's worrying about or asking about render engines. I think people want to know how the flower was done at the end.
Right.
Because that's like, I mean, everything, the entire thing is beautiful, but don't get me wrong. As soon as that showed up, it's like the first time me watching it through, I was like, oh, that's nice. That was the aha moment for me watching it. So, I mean, what was the process with that?
That was knows. Well, I mean, like we had, of course, a lot of reference, but it wound up not being the reference. You know how sometimes references here make this, and in that way, for Jake, it was definitely a moving target because we're like, we're starting out with like jellyfish and feathers and this and that, and it's a flower, but it's not a flower of this world. It's the next generation world. So, it's an alien flower. So, it just every.
It was like I would give like
they open up, and then you have like kind of the succulent thing, and then we always wanted something like unfurling like tendrils, but then when he came up with a solution that had it much more feather-like, we, just like you, lost our minds.
That was like that was the lucky break, is we were, the inspiration, and Duarte and Erin kept saying like, kind of feather-like, kind of plumage-like. And we had been playing a lot with Cinema 4D's hair system in previous projects, and so a lot of times I think for references and shots like that, like I might want to lean towards like a more simulation heavy package like Houdini or something like that. But because we were so familiar with the hair system, I was like, let's see if we can come up with something interesting out of this. And then the basic setup was like we had a tube. And we put the hair on either side and sort of cut it into a feather shape with like the brush cutting tools. And the engine, the simulation engine, basically came up with the dynamics for us. I mean, we turned off gravity, and then we used like a bend deformer to roll up the stem. And Cinema, basically, after I cached it, was like, "Oh, you want this animation right here? Here you go." And I was like, "Whoa, okay, save that." And that's when I showed it to Erin and Duarte, and they were like, "This is cool. Let's move with this." And I was like, "Okay,
you're like,
cool.
Look how much time I spent." Cinema didn't do this all for me.
Of old simulations and old, R&D, and I was like, "Okay, cool. We're settling. Let's run with this one." So then it was just figuring out how to like duplicate that setup and cache it and sort of figure out the technical hurdles to get it to like, composite and render and all that kind of stuff. So it was definitely really cool. But I was like, oh man, Cinema 4D's hair system to the rescue. It was great. It was very cool.
It's awesome. Well, we've got, of course, people in the chat want to see it again. We will play it again eventually here. We have tons of actual video breakdowns and stuff to go through.
Yeah.
So we've got a list here. I'm sure you've got the list over there too. I don't know who wants to begin, but we can start bringing some of this up and talking about it. Starting with the remote political speech here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who wants to start?
Me.
Yeah,
Like, is it always me?
No, in the year 25.
25. Yeah. So this was like in the teaser. So this shouldn't be, if people are paying attention, this shouldn't be new. We kind of put it in the order, just of our shot list. And I think we prepped these for you guys so that you could see kind of how literal we were in some ways to the script. Here we are kind of just talking about everybody kind of having a drone kind of like avatar for themselves in a Citizen Kane like setting. So each of those drones kind of represents a person. It's also kind of like the Terracotta Army. There's, very like North Korea-y vibe-ish. There's like a lot.
I had like I was getting like a 1984 vibe.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like it always reminded me a little bit of that old Apple commercial too, where they're throwing
of course, yeah,
and everybody's all in the room. That's kind of the vibe I got.
Yeah.
Did you know our friend Nadia, the producer we work with a lot, she produced that?
Oh no way!
Really?
There we go.
Yeah.
That was the
Next time
that was the thread.
Yeah.
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 I love the addition to these little details, like the screen that you have on the front of their chest, with the little with the program stuff going through it, as well as later on when you've got the baby in the vial or the fetus in the vial or whatever, and you've got the Gattaca, stuff going through on the side. I thought that was awesome. Nice little details that just really add to it.
Yeah, props to Ellie Monroe there. I think she did an excellent job, and those like little details really make this piece shine. I think like for the pills.
The
pills actually became part of like the whole branding for FITC up until now, and they changed. They evolved. Yeah. They evolved a little bit, but I think like we're trying to communicate here is like instead of like the pill being a mood or something like they imagined in the 60s, in this case is more of like the information and media is like being consumed as these digital energy pills that go through the tubes.
Yeah.
And having like the people in their daily everyday settings and doing everyday things like on the bus or and just all consuming this information.
I love that we're watching this on loop right now. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's something to like from a bigger perspective thing. Like those pills actually looking like little energy balls is probably the newest addition to our piece. It was added in the last week. Until very recently, the pill looked a lot like our promotional art. We made that a poster very, very quickly to start promoting the event. And so it just kind of became what the pills look like. And we didn't really think about them again because
we were like, check, it's done.
And, and every project you need like a mentor or just somebody to look at something with fresh eyes as you're coming into the close where all your intentions are set and you just need somebody that you trust to look at it. So I sent the piece to the Russos and going, any feedback you have, I'm not going to couch anything, give it to me. And they were like, those pills look like pills, but you've reimagined this future. I would think what they look like. So of course, I'm like, oh shit, he's totally right. If we had done these pills later on, we would have approached them in a totally different way through a different lens. And so they kind of went back to the drawing board for the last 2 weeks of the project. And, Dan Moore helped us out with that aspect. And
Yeah.
so,
Shout
like,
out to Dan Moore for helping out. Yeah.
So those were, so there was a lot going on there, but just every once in a while, you have to have somebody take a look at your work with fresh eyes and, know that, you're asking them for their opinion for a reason. So you have to be willing to like jump in and do the work. So that was cool of them to respond and give me feedback.
A great addition. They look fantastic. And I feel like it really helps. Like, I'd love to see the original,
Yeah.
But like this, I feel like this version really sells the idea a lot better,
Yeah. They look a lot more ethereal too, and I think that really helps.
And I feel like that theme kind of continues throughout the entire piece.
Yep. That energy definitely relates to what's going on. Anywhere you see color is it means something very important is happening, or something kind of deeper, so to speak, relating to humanity or affecting humanity. And so you have that, you have the brain scene, you have the baby, of course, and of course the flower and the droplet. And so our limited palette, even just introducing color, I wasn't happy at all with color until the very end. It seemed like, the first like 8 months or whatever, I was like, no, like, that's not it. It's too this, it's too that, it's too colorful. Like, so it took a real long time. And then we talked about cheating it and making everything black and white because everything looked amazing in black and white. But in order for you to kind of get those other moments, it had to be color. You know what I mean? So that was a real thoughtful piece of the equation there. Anyway,
I like this shot here too.
I love this shot. This shot makes like, this is where you kind of get this evolution of the different robots and the different bodies and stuff like that. I loved this shot right here.
This was the we wanted to represent the ending of social media. So like all the with little windows start going away, and nobody's gonna look at you anymore.
Your eyes don't matter, your mouths don't matter, what you see doesn't matter, what you say doesn't matter. It's all being done for you.
And this shot was super cool, just because Josh and Allie working on it, they did the design for this sort of humanoid face, and then altered it slightly for all the different user profiles and things like that. And I just think, I don't know, it looks really cool. And I was always like, ooh, like, this face is just, it's human-like, but it's creepy. I always was like, I always told Josh, I was like, I love it, but I like hate it. It's like creepy, So I was like, it's great. So I just want to give props to them for that, because it looks really cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting, the whole mask thing, and even like the whole metallic thing over the skin, because like at the time we thought of it like as a sun exposure and protection from radiation or sun, but now it takes on a whole different meaning just because of this whole pandemic.
Right.
Faces are covered.
I know. It's really relevant a little bit.
A little lot. From the remote political speech kind of thing to like nobody being there. Really, it's just, it's like we guessed what was to come.
Sized a little bit,
maybe we jinxed the world.
I know, that's what I heard about. I was like, what did you predict? We're in the middle of this project and they're like, stay at home, everyone. And I was like, uh-oh.
This reminds me of something.
Like robots literally taking the place of you. And that's like literally how we're working at the studio. We are all remote, but we're working from our workstations at the studio. So it's like an actual manifestation of our first phase of the evolution.
I kind of imagine people that look like this sitting at the studio right now, like beep boop beep, like doing whatever we tell them,
And this is kind of what this is like. We abandon our bodies and stuff.
I love this, and I love the addition of color here with the glowing brain. You know, and I love the dissolve in, because you can't. It's like abstract, and you don't realize what it is at first until that like little shine of light comes in. It's just you think it's almost like a cityscape or something like that. And then coming in, revealing that it's a brain being inserted into this robot. And I love that the robot now, it's not even really humanoid at all. It's just it's just
a container.
Yeah, it's like all function. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And it is like super deco inspired. It has all the little elements.
Absolutely.
A question in the chat was, how long did it take total to build?
To create, to build the whole piece.
We were working like last September for sure.
Yeah.
So
I think so.
Probably. It's been
I would love to see the date stamp on the.
Yeah, I'd love to know, because
on my first animatic. Yeah,
because this was all during too. Like we were working on other projects, so it wasn't like 100% working
the
on
whole
it since
time.
September.
Right.
Yeah, it was like fits and spurts.
A lot of people, Matt Miltenberger especially, stayed up like till many nights till 1 a.m. working on this after working on our project in the studio. So
so absolute shout out.
Absolute shout out to him, to Josh, all the people.
Everybody contributed so much.
Really, it's crazy.
Because it definitely, I mean, it's definitely a struggle to have like a cool project on your plate and then be like, oh, we got to juggle this with like, client work day to day, that kind of thing. So it definitely, that was like the biggest challenge, I think.
That's why like having Sean set milestones for us was really great.
It was,
forced us to. I mean, I think we ultimately did a good job, or would have done a good job, but having those milestones made it essential that we have aspects of it created. Like we needed the teaser done and we needed the poster done, so that kind of forced the look exploration, and then forced the first 30 seconds, and then just big bursts. We started extending hours at the studio a little bit, just to be able to make sure everybody was getting at least a couple hours a day on it. And certainly towards the end, we were a little freelance heavy, so that we could have our studio be able to focus on this.
Totally.
But with COVID, like some of our jobs like kind of fell away that were in the pipeline, but then some jobs hit, and they've been extremely fast turnarounds, because they're either response advertising or stuff that was about to go into production that was sold through, that now is an in-the-box solution. So it's like a much more accelerated timeline to produce work, So once we get through this bump, but we set our date for this, and we're like, we're doing it.
Yeah, we had to.
It made the last couple of months challenging.
Yeah. But it was, it was nice having that deadline though.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I feel like
those designer babies, we didn't talk about those, and CRISPR and all that.
Oh, CRISPR.
Dave, can you go back to that shot again?
I love the test tubes. There's this illustrative feel to the test tubes. I don't know how you did that. It's so great.
Here's something that I didn't notice until watching this on loop. You go to this shot right here with like kind of the church-esque, all the left and right, that's filled with test tubes, isn't it?
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
It's very subtle, but it's beautiful.
Like churches are now where you grow babies.
Like this,
which makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
What's okay? So the symbol that's used throughout, and this just may be my own ignorance. I don't recognize it. Was that something that was made up by y'all, or? Yes. Okay, so that's not like a specific FITC or Sarofsky thing.
No,
that was just
we needed to brand this world government and this power, this world domination, and we needed to find like a logo to do that with. So we looked a lot of like the world of logotype and like all these 70s 80s books on thousands of logotypes, and we were inspired and we wanted something simple and striking. We landed on this one, and just
I think
that
the
plastered
logo
branded
also
everything.
adds to this Art Deco kind of feel as well.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
That logo development, that was like a project kind of unto itself, because we were like, okay, we need to, again, like Duarte said, brand this government, and it needed to feel real and to remain consistent throughout, but also evolve with it. And we felt like that was a really important aspect of the piece, especially you get into this section, because we're touching every continent. Well, except Antarctica, but like every continent, and showing like that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Just penguins walking around.
Yeah,
it's melted by then. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. I thought it was cool. I liked that the logo was ambiguous enough, because like some of the concepts I know we were coming up with when we were testing the logo design, like we were like, man, this feels like an homage to this, or this is too similar to this logo, and people might. Like, we didn't necessarily want it to be associated with anything on purpose. And so I'm kind of glad, that you were like, I don't recognize the logo, because I was like, oh, that's good, because I don't think we wanted to, like, associate it with anything but this sort of project,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, in this area, we're just showing that this thing is everywhere, and it's got to end. It ends. So...
And this was interesting, Duarte. You picked a lot of these locations, just they were all on every continent, all over the world.
Yeah, I wanted to show that it was really like everywhere. In our other cut we were working on, we actually ended with the UN building with all like massive logo, and all the flags were black, and it's just very symbolic.
Chris is asking if the volumetric lighting was in Arnold, or was it done another way?
We had it both.
Yeah, both. I was going to say, because sometimes the volumetric lighting turned out cool, but other times it wasn't art directable enough, and also just, it would render slower if we did it in 3D. So we were like, let's see if we could do it in After Effects. Using radio blurs and things like that, and then we would end up being like, oh, this looked better than what we were coming up with, like, in 3D. So let's like layer this in. Like a lot of it. That's where a lot of the comp came in, because like we did originally do a lot of volumetric light, and then we were like, oh, it's just way more efficient and art directable to be able to do this in After Effects.
Totally. Yeah.
And then you have the rebirth section as well here.
Our magic drop. Tears.
That's great.
Yay.
Matt did a bunch of awesome work on the magic drop and giving that kind of glowy feel. And then, of course, it transitions into the flower, which was our big sort of technical scene, trying to figure this one out, and, ending on the logo. These two shots were pretty technically challenging, I think, from our perspective. Like, the droplet, we were able to get sort of crown splashes out of real flow. We had a setup that we had used previously for that one, and Matt came up with this sort of shader that was giving it this kind of glowy feel on the inside of it.
That great.
So shout out to Matt Miltenberger for doing that. And I think in that shot too, the lighting is comped in, because it just ended up giving us that sort of 2D feel that we liked.
Yeah, this is
the use of color in these two shots are just it's awesome. Like it really puts the cherry on the top for this entire project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We were building up to it. I think we were just introducing little hints of it throughout the piece. It's like this energy, and we wanted to highlight certain things that were human, that were godlike, that were energy-like, and then obviously the ray of hope in the end is it had to be this beautiful energy flourishing.
Yeah.
The rebirth after everything's gone. So
we couldn't leave it, so bleak. There's at least this sort of hope, Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Just ended on that thing, humanity's gone. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No big deal.
Even if humanity destroys everything, there will still be something left.
Yeah.
We got some still photos in here too, actually.
Oh yeah, let's take a look at
Yeah. We can bring up, the poster, I think, was the first thing.
Yeah, and then you'll see the original pill situation.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So
colors.
this was really this was like the genesis of this look, really. It was what did we want this title sequence to look like? And we had this assignment from Sean at FITC, where we needed to come up with a visual that would then be used throughout all their graphics package to promote the event and their website and everything. And we created this, and this is like a huge commitment. We actually, Jake and I stayed up like so long trying to nail this poster, just because I just couldn't get over the importance of it, because it's this still image, but it's going to define the look of this huge project that we're going to be working on for months. So so we really wanted to nail it.
And what's interesting, if you look at it, it's not what we came up with in the end. Like the dramatic.
It evolved, yeah.
Obviously, when I was talking about the pills, this is what I mean. Like, had a little energy inside them, but it like never occurred to us that in the year 25, pills are not going to look the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
no gel caps. Yeah. They're like
and the newer pills feel a bit more nebulous. Versus like these feel kind of like electricity.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There's still like there's this plasma and electric and energetic quality to them. So
but it was cool. I mean, what were you saying, Duarte?
I don't know. I don't hate these films. It's all retro futuristic, so like some hints of the past are okay, but I definitely love the colors that are more metallic inspired that we move towards. So it's the coppers, the golds, the gunmetal, the platinum. All of those were just came a little bit later in the process. So this is what we were looking at as we were developing the poster and what we were thinking for the title. So
especially that one of the face, it's kind of close up. That was the one that we looked at and we were like, it's certainly possible to do this, illustrated and build this in like, Photoshop or something like that. But how would we take our like Cinema Arnold pipeline and kind of transfer this look to it? And it was the biggest struggle, because it was like, okay, we have noises in the shaders. Do we place lights? Do we use gradients? All this kind of thing. We ended up using a mixture of all of that, but at the time that was like, okay, let's see if we can develop this kind of look. This sort of like old Art Deco, this like 80s deco, futuristic deco.
Totally.
Yeah.
What's the one?
And we were doing a lot of that.
What's on the right of Citizen Kane there? Is it Citizen Kane?
The face with the two sort of things.
That's just the mannequin, actually, and it was a big inspiration for our humanoid development, and how we had these shapes and then Volume Builder would subtracted stuff from them. I think we have a few stills later on that we can show. How that
more reference to sculpture than anything,
right?
It's even a little bit like bug-like. I remember at one point I was like, check out these beetles, guys.
Look at these beetle men. Yeah.
Oh my god, the amount of just reference that we pulled. Remember like for the logo I was pulling manhole covers from like the 30s and 20s.
Yeah.
designed and so beautiful. I was like, look at these panel covers, they're amazing.
And everything in that from that era was, it had detailing on it, and it had little things on it that would make it have that Art Deco look. But it wasn't like super. I don't know. It was simple shapes, that kind of thing. So that was
details. The way edges from how everything was like forged or something, or that process took it. You could do stuff like that, and it was
yeah. It was like 1920s volume builder,
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and here's all the frames.
This is all the shots. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's interesting because you can see where the color's used.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
But it is like, it's like introducing the color. The pills are the first thing that have it, then the brain, the baby, and then finally the teardrop in the flower. So, but it is like, this is a good way to see it like all together, how the look came together, how this is like 3D illustrated, very, very carefully art directed lighting, super cool.
Now,
that was definitely. Oh, what were we gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say on the storyboard process, first of all, who gets to do the drawings?
I did. It's so funny that like if you compare I placed them on top of where the shots were in the previous frame, but it's kind of amazing how a lot of the things were there. We didn't change a whole lot. We changed the design of the robot, but but I'm really proud of how we stuck to the concept. I think not having like a difficult client is a huge part of it. So we stuck to our original vision,
There wasn't a ton of changes, from that.
I think, we went back and forth in edit quite a bit defining what the story was going to be. So this wound up, this was the final storyboard. And I think we just approach this the way a filmmaking process is. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't move to another phase until we had the phase before it done. And we had an epic shot list, and everybody was assigned to what they were doing, and it was it was like a mini pipeline, but it was definitely more a film pipeline for sure.
Did you draw these
looking at this
on an iPad, or did you go old school?
No, I actually drew them on my Wacom tablet.
I was gonna say I like the difference that you did with the robot. When the brain is being inserted into the robot, it's a big change from what you initially drew to what you guys ended up with. And I think the one that you ended up with kept more with that Art Deco feel versus this one would feel a whole lot more futuristic.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the angles are very symmetrical and everything. Those were decisions that we made actually pretty late in the game. I think it was like once we started seeing
that robot.
The robot, we wanted to change right away. Yeah. That was a placeholder robot. For sure. Placeholder
robot. Yeah.
The UI design, I think, like as you Matt were saying, is like just these details that we put all the effort into. Ellie Munro, she did all these faces just for these cards because we needed different people. And not to mention like the gorgeous minimal design. I think like imagining what these things would be like in the future. The detail of like the little dots around the face, is that like connected to their DNA information, all that stuff.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Yeah.
So,
are there any hidden gems in here? I mean, I'm seeing a lot of like letters.
Like whose initials are these? Whose addresses?
Yeah, whose initials are those? And whose
I'm
last
not
four
sure.
of their
Yeah,
social?
exactly. It's like
I think,
that's my mother's initials. Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah. No, we can take this. All right. suddenly find loans in our name. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll have to ask Allie tomorrow if she's at the Monday meeting. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we had a lot of ideas for what we would put into these little social areas, like were people connecting? Were they liking statuses? Were they posting things? And then it kind of got pared down to just like connection and status and like, and, and like the stars kind of reminded me a little bit of like, sort of Black Mirror-y, where people are sort of reviewing you
Yeah.
in society
Yeah.
at all times, or like a social score and that kind of thing. So I really like that idea because I feel like that is like a really plausible future, that we see, and we're kind of like, ugh.
Scary stuff.
Yeah. It's almost like once all that technology's away, it's because everyone hit 5 stars, right? There's no need for that.
Yeah. You do this, I'll do this. There we go. 5 stars, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're cool.
And then you get 3.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh God, my livelihood. Yeah. No, but I thought that was interesting. And Allie went to a lot of work too. The faces weren't the finals that you saw in the pictures. It was really cool because she ended up trying to make them kind of gender neutral. So like, because we were thinking like in the future, if humanity becomes more and more homogenous, like those like physical definitions of face or chin or head shape would like start to fade away, Right. So I don't know. Yeah. So we had some variation in there, and we were like, well, this looks a little bit more like a female robot and a male robot. And we were like, let's try to meld the two to give that idea that like we're just becoming homogenous. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So
this was the volume.
Yeah.
Rad.
So we have like a
subtraction pieces right here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I thought that was super cool. Like Josh basically we have this humanoid base mesh that we have from our sort of asset library, and Josh took it and then just started subtracting away. So it was really interesting because like in 3D modeling, normally it's like an additive process. But with the volume builder set, it was really easy for Josh to just come up with really interesting shapes and be like, chop, 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 and come up with sort of.
I think like another thing that's really, really cool here is like the fact that Josh and a couple other people in the studio actually learned to model for this piece. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. And
really
here Allie like creating these all these face variations, like this is more masculine, this is more feminine, all different. And and then like I think the next clip is like a turntable, like this full humanoid that Josh created, and super impressive.
And that was cool because he was building like block shapes on the humanoid body, and then he was using volume builder and then just like hard subdivided edges and things like that to sort of make this plate armor that's over this guy. So he's got this, I don't know, this suit on basically. We don't necessarily know like what it is, but we know it's an indicator of like authority over people. And so when you see him in that shot, you can tell, or see them in the shot. I mean, it's like just a humanoid robot. You think like, oh, this is a leader, or this is like a communicator of, I don't know, instructions, political messages, whatever your interpretation is.
A tyrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is the tyrant. Yeah.
He's our villain.
Lots of armor. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I got this other shot here. Let's see. Tell us a little bit about this one right here.
This is a very, very funny one that we kept sharing these, like especially screenshot on the left. It's it's at one point that's how Josh was lighting his guy to get the lights exactly the way he wanted them.
Yeah.
So
no
insane.
just throwing an HDRI in there and just saying, all right, we're good to go.
Yeah.
No, this is as art directed as it can get.
Yeah. And it was amazing. We used that like cinema, like the lighting tool in cinema that lets you pick like where do you want your specular highlight. So like Josh would click a light, and then he would like position it perfectly in the viewport and see it in like the IPR, and And then we just kept adding more and more. And then when he zoomed out, he was like, "Whoa, we got to get a screenshot of this! Like, this is absurd." We sent this around and we were like, "Look at this! Oh my god!"
It's insanity. It's hilarious. But,
And it was cool because like I don't think we didn't figure it out until later in the game, but it was like all those lights were light linked to that one model. So they wouldn't affect anything else but just the specular highlights of the models. And then we ended up figuring out a way to clone it. It was really cool. I think we used the multi-instance feature and the light linking state, because we were thinking to ourselves like, oh, do we bake these down as textures on the models? Do we how do we duplicate this without the lights sliding when the camera moves and things like that? So yeah, I don't know. I don't think we have a screenshot of the light setup duplicated across like the hundreds of people, but we ended up. I think we ended up hiding it all just to keep the viewport like efficient.
I can imagine that would be pretty messy.
But I remember Matt being like, "Oh, check it out, it works," and we were like, "Yes!"
Wow.
That was very cool.
Yeah, this is like one of our earliest tests with shading that Matt put together. He was trying to develop the shader, and he was trying to create all these gradients and all these ramps that had the noise, but ended up like actually simplifying it, and I think it ended up just being a base noise shader plugged into everything, and then the rest was done with lights. But I think we took a screenshot of the Arnold nodes where we started and where we ended. Yeah.
Maybe go through here. It's probably the next
one. I want to say the first one is probably what we pulled from the poster design, right, Jake?
Yeah, it was like we had a couple scales of noise and a couple different kinds of C4D noise that we were messing around with. So it's the nodes are a little small on the left, so it was like, but basically what it is we're just mixing a bunch of C4D noises and moving them around, and then after that, Matt came up with a really good idea where he was like, why don't we just have a unified noise shader that we just reference for everything, and that was like a total like ding kind of moment, because that way like, if we needed to make a change across an entire scene and we had a couple hundred clones, a couple hundred objects, and they're all linking to that same noise, it just kind of was like an instance, that kept us, sane, because we could be like, oh, we'll change it by 10%, and then it would just cascade across the scene. So it was just a lot of that. Yeah, shout out to Matt for just keep like thinking ahead for a lot of that setup to make it modular, so that if feedback came down the line, we weren't going to be replacing 150 materials and things like that. So it was very smart.
Totally. And it ended up being the material that was used like throughout almost everything. Everything gray.
Yeah, exactly. So we had that unified noise like for everything. Yeah. But it was great because we were like, oh, just apply the noise, let's see how it turns out. Yeah.
Now, tell us about this shot, this wireframe right here.
Oh, okay. So this was a shot that we captured to sort of demonstrate how we had got the plant working the way I was describing it earlier. So we had this bend deformer that was causing this tube to kind of wrap around on itself, and it's a little tricky because like you have to keep the bend deformer kind of like coiled tight. But if you do that, you can put it on a spline wrap. So that's what we ended up doing, was spline wrapping that after the fact to this sort of branch shape, and that branch shape had animation on it as well. And this is just a quick shot where we were doing the hair growth, so you can see the gradient on the bottom that's kind of controlling the length in the C4D hair shader. And then after that, when you apply it all together and you leave dynamics on and like turn gravity off and put a little bit of turbulence on there, you get this animation. And that was where I was like, oh my god, cinema, this is great, thank you. Like,
simple, right?
Yeah. So then we basically just had to duplicate it, different positions, cache each of those. So here I am, Cinema, just clicking on each of the ones, and you can see that their wireframes don't match perfectly because, like, Cinema after the fact will apply, kink and curl and noise, hair. Yeah, and so, but it was great because Cinema lets you pipe things like gradients into each strand of hair too, so we could have a gradient of color from the middle outward and things like that. So
Right.
that was where I was like, they give you so much control over the system that that if Duarte and Erin were like, hey, can we make it more blue towards the center? It wasn't a huge deal. It was all like,
Right.
oh, okay, it's just a ramp on a V outwards or whatever. But yeah, just coming up with that kind of uncoiling was the hardest part, because if that coil was like too large, the spline wrap would like deform it weirdly, and you'd get kind of artifacts and things like that. So it was mainly a matter of just like tweaking it until it looked acceptable, and then being like, okay, enable the hair, and let's see like how cinema reacts with it. Is it going to explode? Is it going to like cache nicely? And then when it cached, it was like, oh my god, that's great. That's super cool.
You're like, is it gonna work,
so
or is it gonna sit there and like think about it and then lock
exactly.
up? And you're like, oh, I did a little too much.
Oh, and you're always saving like every 2 seconds, because I'm like, okay, let's see if this works.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit of that, Hail Mary moment where we were like, let's try to see if this works. And then when it did, and we duplicated it a couple times, that was when Duarte and Erin were like, oh my god, that's the flower. Let's use that on the flower.
Like,
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah.
That's funny.
The
Yeah, the whole-
subtraction of the gravity and the adding of the little bit of turbulence just really gives it this beautifully organic feel.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I didn't realize this, but like, I guess because it's just splines, like Cinema's hair solver for the dynamics was pretty fast. So it was
Mhm.
like for all 8 of those hairs, or 8 of the hair systems for each of the pedals, I think it was like maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes per
Wow.
thing. It wasn't that long of it. Thankfully, it wasn't like an over thing. Like I could do it in the morning, make a tweak, and then like by the afternoon have a render we could check, things like that.
Yeah.
So that was where I was like, oh man, like these spline dynamics on the hair are really saving us, because it's like no geometry, it's just really simple, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So that was and that was the thing is I think gravity is set by default on the hair system. So as
Mhm.
long as that was turned off, it gave that kind of like underwatery sort of look.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other parts of that plant were fairly simple. Yeah. Oh, and here's a comp that we have of that shot. If people were asking about the compositing process, this is a good
This
breakdown
is
of how it worked. We
how
would.
things-
Yeah, exactly. Like for example, those volumetrics on the sort of evil guy right there, those were done largely in comp. I think we did have a volume render for that guy, but by creating sort of like a spotlight and then doing like a a blur on it and that kind of thing, we could sort of fake a shadow,
Right.
Yeah.
like if we did sort of blur.
That's one of my favorite aspects of the lighting was doing these amazing negative spaces. So where light is something and there's a very drastic absence of light through it, we do it on the robot with we drew it all over the place with the droplets, so that it's not just extreme kind of shafts of light, but also shafts of darkness, and it's so stunning. It's like painterly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that one was cool. And also, like, for a lot of the atmosphere, I know a lot of, like, this is a sort of a common trick in 3D, but a lot of the Z passes, like, we used a ton of the Z pass to give that sort of atmospheric fall off and that kind of thing. Because, like, Arnold does have atmosphere, but we just wanted to make sure that, like, we could tweak it afterwards and it wasn't, like, baked into the render.
Yeah.
So when we were like, oh, this looks really good, like, out of After Effects with the Z pass, like, let's lean towards that, for changes later. And here's the breakdown of that's the pill scene where the pills are going in there.
Yeah.
And this one too.
Wow,
Yeah.
it looks like the cinema like scene just looks so simple.
It is.
And it was yeah.
But see those deliberate shafts of light in the back? It's so stunning.
Wow.
Time passing really fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see a movie. I want this to be a movie. I do see a world where it could be one,
Oh, yeah.
So.
It wouldn't take that long.
I love
to
the
do.
shader that the shading on the material you use for the robots.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's almost like a car paint type shader.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
That shot. Yeah, it's such a simple setup. It's all in the lighting and texturing,
Mhm.
Yeah. And that was the interesting part. Like a lot of the 3D scenes, like this one, for example, wasn't like super duper heavy, like geometry wise. We weren't like throwing the most like complex, geo and solvers and smoke and things like that. This was more, this was more just like making sure the art direction was on point for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was, it was definitely a really cool scene to see come together. You know, because as you can see, like out of the raw render, it was not bad, but it was fun to run it through the process in After Effects and be like, ooh, you know, once you get like the little,
let's make those
like put the little
glow
flares and the glow and
absolutely. Yeah,
very
so this is a great example of what comes out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's drastically different.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like it was cool because we could render these, you know, relatively quickly, like the flat sort of matte characters, and review the camera movements and things like that. But like a lot of these things, you know, we needed to make changes to the screen. So I believe we ended up doing like remap UV and doing UV maps for those, just so we could make those changes and not have to re-render the whole thing over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it when you're watching it like this. You definitely see that how y'all pulled off this illustrative style.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
are those speculars? Are those speculars from a pass, or because they're not on the first run? So where does that come from?
They're pass.
I believe they're from a pass. Yeah. So we're seeing, I think, like the diffuse, the spec, and then everything on top of that, like glows, and the volume light in the background. That's kind of like that crown. That was all. I believe that was all added in After Effects.
Yeah, it's also interesting because a lot of times it's easy to make this style look good as a still, but it's a lot harder to get it moving.
Yeah.
You know? There are decisions that have to be made, like is the noise slipping? Is it supposed to stay on? Is it supposed to be animated? You know, all those decisions were things that we were talking about.
And like depending on the scale of the noise, you'd get like, you know, weird flickering with your anti-aliasing, or you'd get like dancing, you know. And so that was where like that noise scale came in on a per shot basis, because we'd be like, bump it up by 5%. Let's see if that dancing sort of flickering noise is still there.
I was wondering about that because like on that close up of the profile view of the face where you can see that beautiful noise in there, I was wondering what happens once that, you know, once the shot is further away. Yeah.
And that would happen. Like we would move out, and the noise would be so small that you'd either not see it, or you'd get like, you know, Arnold would give us beautiful renders, but there'd be like weird flickering going on, and we'd be like, you know. So on each shot, we would have to like adjust it just to make sure that it was like right at the point where the renderer wouldn't like spit it out kind of funky.
Yeah.
No, we got the crowd.
Oh yeah. And here's this. I believe this is another pass build that Matt put together, and you can see all the different elements, especially like the glows and things like that really take it like to a finish level. Because you can see it's a relatively simple setup with like the particles, and we have like a sequence of the splash and things like that. But in comp is really where Matt really shines.
Absolutely.
It looks like crap coming out of 3D.
I was gonna say, like, you look at it and it's so simple. This was one of those projects where I was like, oh, it doesn't have to be perfect out of render, you know?
Right.
You know.
Are the caustics in it actual caustics, or did you just comp in some caustics to make it easy?
I believe those are comped in. I think Matt can clarify that.
I think they're comped in.
I think they're totally
said the very first frame is the beauty pass out of 3D.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Here.
Yeah,
so
because we were trying to avoid anything sort of expensive. To render. Fake caustics.
Fake caustics. There you go.
Why make it difficult, right?
It's all trickery.
Yeah,
exactly. It was like we could totally have turned on caustics, but you know, it would quadruple the render times, and we're like, nah. Let's forget about that.
It goes so quick, you know.
Yeah.
And
it's like, who's gonna see it? In motion, you know, that kind of thing. So that was definitely. Oh, what were you saying?
No, I was gonna say, and you've got some cutting room floor clips as well, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting story, Erin. Do you want to talk about the cutting room floor?
No.
Do you want me to? Do you want me to bring it up? Do you want me
I
to show the video or?
I can talk about it.
Yeah, no, I don't mind.
Okay.
So a project is like one of those things that, you know, sometimes some of the most pretty stuff doesn't make it into the final piece. And I think we had a couple shots, especially the ones that Duarte, I think, put together here are like the most beautiful of the ones that got cut from the process. So heartbreaking because we developed a whole look for the water that was also Josh's work. And yeah, just kind of heartbreaking. I do think that, actually like part of the song is cut out right now. So the last verse isn't in there. So I think the goal is to continue working with Group Guild to release a proper music video. If publishers are up for it, because our rights are very specific.
Right.
So I think once they see this, and I know there's love for the project, and just by seeing everybody's responses in the feed about the song, I think the song will do really, really well right now in the world.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. We talked a lot about, the woman's voice versus the man's voice. And it was so much went into making that track with Group Guild. You know what I mean? And so essentially we owe the whole base of this project to them, for taking us on that journey. So I do think that these will eventually see the light of day, but for now they're on the floor and it's very sad.
Yeah, it's sad, but then again, I mean, a lot of people who have watched the piece have agreed that it makes the piece more engaging, just having that last verse out. And there were reasons why we were using the music in its own full format and keeping its integrity. But and one of the reasons was obviously keeping the integrity of the music, but also there were 70 credits or so for FITC that we needed to put throughout, and we didn't want to put too many at once. So there was a reason for it to be that long as well. Not having to put names anymore just sort of gave us room to think about what is best for the piece at this point. And a couple of people called it out. So maybe you don't need to show the world ending at this stage in
I'll say
in our lives.
Right.
I'll say because we were chatting before this about that it was slightly different originally from the way it is now, and I think leaving it more to people's imagination kind of adds more to it in a sense, versus showing, this is how it's going to end versus, we don't know how it's going to end,
That's when I watched it, the first day that we cut it, I was very not on board because I was so in love with the piece. But I knew that we had to do it, right? And the next day when I watched it, I was like, oh, no, it's better. It's better. No, I don't want it to be better, but it is better. It's so much more poetic. It's just ending with just showing the Judgment Day or the end of it all with the hand going into ashes and just showing then the face on the floor. It was in a way leads more into the imagination, and it's just more poetic way of dealing with it. But again, I think just keeping the integrity of the song is important. So we instead of taking out a couple of verses, which is what we did, we were considering really releasing an extended cut soon. When time comes. Because the shots are essentially finished, so it's just a matter of plugging them back in and
hitting
hard to
and re-rendering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
definitely hard decisions there, but we were happy with how it ended up. Like now, when I watch the other one, it feels a little long. It's yeah. So I am completely convinced we all made the right decision here.
Are we able to find the song on Spotify or anything?
I don't know about the original. You can certainly, check out this fun old recording on YouTube. But we'll talk with Al and Paul and see about releasing it. I think it would be really cool. Maybe it'll make 100. Me and Al were just joking about that. Maybe it'll make it.
It'll get to the 100 again, and then
yeah.
No, it'll get just a couple past where the first one was.
Yeah.
We'll be like, we made it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you go on YouTube, there is the original clip that we watched because I hadn't heard the song before, but a couple of people were familiar with it. If you Google like Zager and Evans 2525, there's a TV performance they did, and they have the hair and like the suits and the guitars. It's very fun. So it's like when you watch it, you're kind of like it's sort of campy and super retro,
Yeah. So should we watch it again?
Yeah.
I think so.
All right, let's watch it again. If anybody has any more questions, now would be a good time to put them in the chat. So, all right, I got it pulled up. Let's watch it again. You ready? Here we go.
Ready.
In the year 2525, if man is still alive, if woman can survive, they may find. In the year 3535, ain't gonna need to tell the truth, tell no lies. Everything you think, do, and say is in the pill you took today. In the year 4545, ain't gonna need your teeth, you won't need your eyes. You won't find a thing to chew. Nobody's gonna look at you. In the year 5555, your arms hanging limp at your sides. Your legs got nothing to do, and some machine is doing that for you. In the year 6565, ain't gonna need no husband, won't need no wife. You pick your son, pick your daughter too, from the bottom of a long glass tube. In the year 7510, if God's a coming, he ought to make it by then. Maybe he'll look around himself and say, guess it's time for the judgment day. Now it's been 10,000 years, man has cried a billion tears for what he never knew. Now man's reign is through, but through eternal night, the twinkling of starlight, so very far away, maybe it's only yesterday.
So
Beautiful.
good.
All right.
So we did just get an update from Al. He said they'll be releasing it in a few weeks on all platforms.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Oh,
Very cool.
Someone's listening.
Yeah.
All platforms. Right.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the sound effects too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Riggio. Shout
They're
out to him.
super subtle and effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. They totally worked though. That's great. Did we get any other questions in here? Let's see.
I'm trying to read. They're so small.
Oh yeah. Look at the
Original
chat.
song is on Spotify.
Just a lot of comments. Yeah.
Yeah,
Other
just a lot of comments.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely beautiful piece. Like,
Thank you.
huge
Oh,
huge
thank
props
you.
because it is a gorgeous piece, and I hope y'all are very proud of the work that you did because it is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a very special piece. I know our team worked, very hard, but sometimes you work very hard and it's okay,
Mhm.
I think just looking back, when Sean approached us, we really wanted to use this as an opportunity to create something extraordinary. And
Yeah.
it's certainly a little bit referential in some ways in terms of evoking certain feelings, but we really wanted to define a new process and create a new look. And for me, it's a success if every frame could be a poster, and it is.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Every scene
Yeah.
is like haunting, and it just mimics the words in that way, just kind of creating visuals out of some of this weird abstract shit they were saying.
A couple
Yeah.
questions here in the chat. Did early iterations have any type or titles on it?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And then is that like, did you have other type that was it going to be in the actual reveal and you took it out because it wasn't going to be revealed there on site, or did it come out for other reasons?
Yeah.
Or
There were a lot of reasons, but like the main thing is that nobody spoke.
Yeah.
I know.
We wanted to at least acknowledge all the people in the credits that would have spoke.
Hmm.
So I feel like that could become like a very tricky political thing. So we just kind of tried to just do the simplest, most thoughtful approach. But our compositions were so kind of dramatic, and a lot of them left room for type. There weren't really many, though, that we changed or recomposed because there was no type in them.
Mm.
No,
I think there
they
was-
worked well
Yeah,
still.
they worked well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're lucky that the type was being applied after. If we had done obviously a lot of work where it was like heavily integrated into the scenes, it would have been hard to remove it. But it was like a very minimal approach to typography.
Yeah.
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 and
We were definitely. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
It was. I was just gonna say all that we were playing with was just light, kind of revealing the type at some points, and
Yeah.
Cool.
it didn't really
That's cool.
change that.
Yeah.
But it was going to be beautiful, but
Yeah.
It's still beautiful.
Yeah.
it's beautiful without it. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was, that development is another thing that just kind of went away. But
And how many artists worked on it total?
God, I would have to look at that sheet.
the credits.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the credits. Yeah.
Dozen seems like they're right around,
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was such a
Yeah.
long-term project, and everybody wore so many different hats on it that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Like, I mean, people that had very, very, very little experience with cinema really wanted to be involved in the project, and it's so commendable. Like Griffin, just learning, and he basically created all of the monuments and the stuff with the logo.
That's cool.
And and he worked really, really hard to get that done. So it's super impressive. They look gorgeous too.
Mhm.
So yeah. But yeah, it's like, and everybody in the studio wanted to be involved because what an opportunity to be able to work on FITC main titles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Let's talk about tomorrow too, because the
Yeah.
fun's not over yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
We got a Monday meeting.
yeah, you're gonna
Wake
join
up early.
very early. Tomorrow's a big day. You got virtual NAB and all that. You can kick it off with the Monday meeting tomorrow. Mark and Liam are going to be hosting their usual Monday morning festivities, but everybody is going to join in from this. Not just the three of y'all, but everybody you can possibly squeeze in there, right? Who else is
Yeah.
coming?
So hopefully every single artist's name that we mentioned will be on the call. It's up to them if they want to do it. But certainly would love to have them talk more in depth about some things. But also awesome is Sean from FITC is going to be on. Some past main title creators, part of the FITC family, is going to be on talking about their experiences. I think for us today was very much about, our main title and getting nitty gritty with it. But, tomorrow I think I want to talk a little bit more about why we like conferences like this, why these titles are important to our peers in the industry. And, and I think this kind of collective kind of agreement we've all made that there is importance to that and why it's important and why we go to these places for inspiration and, especially for us to be welcomed into that like FITC family. I've spoken there before, but I've never done a main title for them, and it's like next leveling it, you know what I mean? So to talk a little bit about what that's like, I think it's interesting, like with everybody being kind of locked up a little bit, we're all realizing, especially now, how important those things are, and why we really wanted to finish this and put this out there to the community and for ourselves. Like that's just as important as like the process of creation, as like the putting it out there and seeking kind of the big old thumbs up from our community about this work. And so for us, that's so much of what this was about. So I'm just like grateful for you guys and for Monday Meeting and for Sean and for everybody of all these kind of brands coming together to just support like my artists and the work that we've done. It's been really a special experience.
Yeah.
And what time? Let's see. That's going to be 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mondaymeeting.org for anyone curious.
.org. Bring that up here. You can see their Insta.
Oh, nice.
Yay, excited.
There you go. Oh, they got all the times. There you go.
Oh, perfect.
Nice.
10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific.
So you'll get it right.
UTC.
What about hours?
Oh, 9
Central time.
Central.
9 Central. Yeah.
Yeah, 9 Central, 9 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Don't forget about the Midwest.
Don't miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody check that out. Get on there. If you're just catching the stream after the live recording, tomorrow morning will be your chance to ask questions. If you missed it, and then after that you can check out some virtual NAB. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I do see that Vimeo on FITC's Vimeo page, it is posted. So
Ooh, watch it over and over.
Frame by frame, over and over.
Yeah. Really pour
Bring your questions tomorrow after watching it.
Exactly.
After scrutinizing it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just one pixel that I noticed.
Sir, sir, I noticed in scene 2, shot 4, there's one pixel that is it's the wrong. Yeah.
Did you forget to mask it out, or was it done purpose?
Yeah. I think
what
we
is your
know
grayscale
all of
value?
those.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that's funny.
Great.
We know all of them.
All right. Well, I guess
awesome.
If nobody has any more questions, we'll probably head out. Does anybody have anything else they want to add before we get going?
I just want to say thank y'all for being on this and giving us like the platform to be able to present these titles for y'all, because thank you so much, because this, like, I don't know, these opportunities for us don't come up so often to be able to present such amazing work to everyone, so thank y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
If people want to find you on the internets, where can they find you? What's all your websites, social, Insta?
Okay. Yeah,
TikTok.
so just Sarofsky.com is our website, but Sarofsky_design is our Instagram. And then, all the places. Same thing. Sarofsky Twitter, Sarofsky this.
All the things.
All the things, Sarofsky.
Cool.
And we'll be all connected. Jake and I will be all connected to the Sarofsky design too. So.
Yeah.
And we are
Awesome
going
to see us.
to, over the coming weeks, a little bit more behind the scenes on our Instagram. So we'll likely show some of those type explorations and things like that. It's kind of what's fun about these projects is there's no confidentiality situation.
Yeah.
Show and share as much as we want. And instead of doing one long, big one like we have done in the past, we'll probably just do little short bursts. So that it's more manageable for us to get done and put it out on our Sarofsky Design Instagram so people can kind of ask questions and we'll engage back with everybody. If people have questions, we'll just respond. So
Awesome.
Cool.
Totally.
All right.
Very cool.
Well, we're going to take off. Thanks everybody for watching on the live stream, and we'll see
Thank
you
you.
tomorrow on the Monday
Thank
meeting.
you, everyone.
All right.
Monday meeting.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
All right.
All
Have
right.
a good one.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Later, yo.
Bye.
Bye-bye.